All right, so today we are doing lesson 4.1. I believe lesson 4 is the last lesson of chapter 1. So we'll be moving on to chapter 2 when I see you later in the week. So everyone's nearby good? Yeah? Okay. So as I've already kind of reviewed with you, remember we're investigating the question, why do different substances have different properties? That's really our focus right now. And so we've gathered evidence in both the sim and the article that we read to answer this investigation question, which leads us to our third key concept for the chapter. Substances have different properties because they are made of different groups of atoms. If something is made of potassium chloride, that's different than sodium chloride, okay? Carbon monoxide, CO, or carbon dioxide, CO, monoxide is CO, is different from carbon dioxide, which is two oxygens in a carbon. Okay, so they're different because they have different groups of atoms. And the groups vary in the type or number of atoms that make up that group. They could be molecules, they could be single atoms that repeat over and over. And then the number of them, how many there are, can also vary. So this key concept is very, very important for chapter 1, okay? Answers our investigation question. This key concept helps us remember that the differences in the way atoms are grouped are the reason that different substances have different properties. So groups of atoms repeat to make up a substance. A substance is not just one atom, it's groups of them going over and over and over again. If we can find out more about the properties of the reddish-brown substance and the atoms that it is made of, we may be able to identify it and answer the chapter 1 question, which we will do today. Remember our chapter 1 questions and claims. So we have, what is the reddish-brown substance in the water? Claim 1 says that it's the same as the substance that makes up the pipes. Claim 2, it's the same substance as the fertilizer. And 3, it's not the same as either the fertilizer or the substance that makes up the pipes. We're going to use our key concepts to help us figure this out. So remember that we have the observations of the pipe, the fertilizer, and the reddish-brown substance from Yun. So those observations there are of the 3 substances that were in the plastic bags and what she thought about each one of those. Or he, never said. So we're going to go to Google Classroom and we're going to open up number 2 for today. And we're going to complete part 1 by thinking about Yun's observations and choosing a claim. We need to come back here after part 1. So we're going to go to Google Classroom. And open up number 2. When you get there, this is what you should see. Oh, that's not what I want to do. So part 1, reviewing the evidence. Review Yun's observations of the properties of the pipes, the fertilizer, and the reddish-brown substance, then answer the 2 questions below. So the pipe substance, she said, was gray, made of small hard pieces, and the pieces are a little bit shiny. The fertilizer is white, made of small hard crystals. The reddish-brown substance is reddish-brown and made of small pieces the size of pebbles. So based on the evidence, which claim about the reddish-brown substance is best supported? So go ahead and highlight either claim 1, 2, or 3. Which claim do you think is true based on our observations of the properties of the 3 substances? Remember to highlight, you just select your text and then choose the highlighting tool and pick a color. Anyone need help choosing a claim or highlighting a claim? All right. So complete the following sentence based on the claim that you chose. The group of atoms that repeats to make up the reddish-brown substance could be the same as the substance that makes up the pipes, could be the same as the fertilizer, or could not be the same as either the fertilizer or the substance that makes up the pipes. So based on the claim that you chose, which of those three statements would be true about the atoms that make up the reddish-brown substance? When you're done, we're going to go back to the Nearpod. Do not turn that in. Do not close the tab. Does anyone need more time or help? Dr. Young has provided us with atomic scale models. They show the atoms and the groups of atoms that repeat to make up the pipe, the fertilizer, and the reddish-brown substance. So in the picture there, although small, you might need to zoom in. We have the pipe here, which is a repeating atom of Fe. According to our key, Fe is iron. The fertilizer, our repeating group of atoms, and I can't read, I think it's NaNO, how many? NO3, because there's three. Okay, so we have sodium, we have oxygen, and we have nitrogen. That's what's making up our fertilizer. And then we have our reddish-brown substance. Reddish-brown substance is repeating group of atoms, Fe2O3. And so Fe is iron, and O is oxygen. This shows the atoms and the groups of atoms that repeat to make up the pipe, the fertilizer, and the reddish-brown substance. You're going to examine these models so that you can use them as evidence in your explanation to the people of Westfield. Tomorrow, you will complete that explanation. We're going to go back to that document. I forgot to put my link there. And we're going to complete part 2 of the identifying reddish-brown substance activity. We're going to examine the models and the questions to think about the models. Next, choose the claim you think is best supported. Turn in your work when you finish. So we're going to go to part 2. After analyzing the samples, Dr. Young was able to model the atoms and the groups of atoms that repeat to make up the pipe, the fertilizer, and the reddish-brown substance. Examine these models and use the questions to think about them. Then choose the claim you think is best supported. So again, there's the diagram or the models of the three substances. So if you need to spend more time looking at those, please do. Our questions to think about. First of all, how are these models different from real life? Anyone ever thought? How are these pictures here different from real life? Hunter?
You can't see atoms.
Yeah, you can't see atoms, right? So we can see the atom here. We can't see them in real life. What else did you say?
There's not letters written on them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It'd be silly, right? There's not really letters written on atoms. So even when scientists can get down with a very fancy microscope to be able to see the atomic scale, there's no letters written on them. So they identify them in different ways. They identify them with their number of electrons, protons, and neutrons that they have. That's how they identify what they are. Any other things you'd like to say about what real life and what information do these models give you that you cannot get by just observing the substance? So by looking at the reddish-brown substance, what does this tell us about that substance that we couldn't see by just looking at it? These models tell us what? What it's made up of, right? These models tell us that it's made of iron and it's made of oxygen. When you look at the reddish-brown substance, you don't see iron and oxygen. You don't know that, okay? So that gives us that information. Do these models support the claim as the, do these models support the same claim as the observations you made? So that's what you really want to think about. Does this support what you chose up here? Okay? I'm not saying you have to change your claim. You don't. But think about that. Does that support what you chose up at the top? So based on this evidence, which claim about the reddish-brown substance is best supported? So go ahead now and choose your final claim of what you believe to be true, and then you're going to turn in your work by clicking the Turn In button. I know we need help turning in, choosing a claim, highlighting. Who needs more time? Excellent. So based on the properties you observed, you were probably able to tell that the substances were not the same, okay? You guys knew that the minute I gave them to you, right? You knew by looking at them that they were three totally different things. But we learned that they are different because they have different properties. However, the atomic scale models help explain why these substances are different. Each of the substances is made up of a different repeating group of atoms, okay? So claim 3 is what you should have chosen because claim 3 says that the reddish-brown substance is not either one of the other two things. So now that we have an atomic scale model of the reddish-brown substance, we can also identify it. The substance is called iron oxide, which is commonly called rust. So the reddish-brown substance coming out of the pipes in Westfield is rust. All right, so we're going to end the Nearpod there. I want to just quickly talk about